Persona 3 Reload, a game once again built from the ground up, is something that I actively fought against believing at first. Hearing that the game I was currently trudging through was going to improve on many things where the original fell short had left quite the wary mark on my mental. The combat was modernized, QOLs were shooting through the roof, linked episodes brought newer sides to characters, and most importantly, you could pet the dog. Everything being shown to me all seemed like an inherent upgrade from what I was going through, and when I finally got myself loading ammunition to the evoker, all of those feelings followed through in magnitudes. But even though I speak so positively of all the things Reload had redone, I can confidently say that there is no way in the dark hour Reload is a definitive experience.
What?
For me. Got you with that one, but please allow me to explain. A few months before Persona 3 Reload's release, I had beaten Persona 3 FES, and to put it bluntly, the story is one of the best I've ever conceived, but the game itself felt near unplayable. The mechanics that were consistent with current Persona games weren't there. The systems actively put pressure on you the entire journey, and overall was a masochistic experience. However, it is exactly because of this reason why I can never call Persona 3 Reload the definitive version for myself. Would you believe me if I said a day consists more than 24 hours? Well, inside of Persona 3, it does. The dark hour is a phenomenon that occurs on a nightly basis. During this hidden hour placed between one day and the next, the once active electronics are now powerless, the clear white clouds shift into a sickly greenish hue, and regular people are transmogrified into coffins, oblivious to all that may occur. Mysterious entities called shadows thrive about in this time and wreak havoc on unprotected humans, draining them of their psyche, leaving them in an unresponsive vegetative state. As the incidents are only observed by people unable to experience the dark hour, their findings on this apathy syndrome was none the wiser. We play as the protagonist Makoto Yuki, a high school student, and one of the people who possess the potential to summon a persona. As you team up with others with the same power, you all unite to fight under the notion to ascend Tartarus in hopes to put an end to not only humanity's strange sickness, but also their approaching demise. You must balance your daily school lives, friendships, and other responsibilities, all the while facing death in the face every night. It's not an enjoyable thing to submit yourself to, and that's what the original Persona 3 made blatantly clear. Every battle was unforgiving. You and your party members could get tired allowing for more mistakes or just being straight up out of commission. It was these aspects that made Persona 3 have its most memorable feeling, dread, over the course of the entire journey. It was a grueling experience the entire way through, but it is precisely the reason why Persona 3 felt so real to me. It actively forced me into the protagonist's shoes unexpectedly with trying to plan out the best approach in my daily life in nightmarish hell. I mean this seriously when I say, when I fell in combat, it felt like I got shot in real life, mainly due to lost time of grinding and all that jazz, but what matters here is the feeling, not whether or not it makes sense. Drawing this comparison to Reload, Tartarus is just really fun. There's rarely a time where I didn't want to go into Tartarus. Well, I guess unless when Elizabeth tells me another human got lost the next day afterwards. I really enjoy spending my time fighting the shadows. It's really not that hard to feel that way either, since the game ultimately became 1,000 times more playable to the average Joe. There's rarely a time where I feel like I'm at a true loss, even inside of Merciless, using the new systems they put in place, of course. And this is very easily the stark contrast that separates the original from Reload. Before, where Tartarus used to feel like this crude, claustrophobic maze filled with unrelenting shadows and dread, Tartarus now is, as my friend put it, beautiful. And I genuinely think that's one of the best ways to describe it. Tartarus is now more of a majestic oddity that represents such a horrifying concept. Mind you, Tartarus is represented as the Tower of Demise. I could honestly say that I feel many times safer here than how its predecessor portrayed it. Does that mean that it makes Tartarus an inherent downgrade from the original? In my opinion, yes. The entire point of Persona 3 to me was all about managing the struggle throughout all the game had actively put against you and how you found ways that would elevate yourself to new heights. Especially since it's because of that setting that rooted me directly into Makoto's shoes without me recognizing. But even though the loss of the struggles I face does take away from what I would call the definitive Persona 3 experience, this still doesn't mean that P3R isn't still excellent from the additional content they added on top of it. I absolutely love the concept of the Theurgy system and how they decided to tie it into the story by treating it as a source of an adrenaline rush. Whether it came down to not wanting to see others get hurt or getting hyped in battle, it was genuinely a nice addition that patched up a very prominent gripe I had with the original Persona 3. It's definitely not the most well thought up system in the requirements to proc them, and some people have it easier than others, but I still enjoyed using them every chance I got. I also enjoyed Reload's linked episodes, which allowed you to see more sides of the characters that you wouldn't get to usually see, both for the female and male cast. It's great for building a connection with each and every one of them, and also has its own benefits for doing so. Hanging out with Yukari, Junpei, Akihiko, Mitsuru, Shinji, and more had been such an enjoyable experience. Especially Shinji. I think anyone would enjoy his linked episodes greatly. While these linked episodes will never compare to a fully fleshed out social link that FEMC's route has, it was an improvement on what the original gave, which was nothing, which was more than enough to get me to call these guys my boys. It is honestly really great to have seen what Persona 3 Reload had done for the people inside of my friend group. The people who weren't really interested inside of Persona have picked it up without me actively telling them to do so. P3R as an introduction had been one of the most beneficial things for them, and had even caused them to start branching out to the other games in the series. Watching them go through the games honestly brings this warm feeling to me. It's like finally seeing people look into the things that I'm interested in. Finally. And it's all really thanks to Reload. So I truly gotta thank Atlas for that one. But even though this is a whole positive message to end off on, that's sadly how we're not able to end this off. Because although I speak so highly of Persona 3 Reload, despite my opinion, it's important to recognize that there is an underlying fault that came to my mind as soon as it was announced. And of course, I'm talking about Atlas's announcement that Persona 3 Reload is actually receiving its once denied expansion, The Answer. That's great, you would think. Wouldn't that make Persona 3 Reload the definitive experience for Persona 3? I mean, if you like spending $35 expansion on an already $70 game. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and point fingers and say who is at fault or who is not at fault. But I just wanted to share my own thoughts on it. It's a bit weird for me personally. As I went through Persona 3 FES and then had to hop straight back in months later, I was planning on going on FES again to beat The Answer, but now knowing that it's going to be remade, it makes me a little bit upset. I'm not sure whether if I want to have to replay The Answer again after doing the original, and to be honest, I don't think I want to spend the $35 asking price for an expansion package with other stuff that I do not care about. Especially since I didn't go the Xbox Game Pass route and paid a subscription for way less the retail price at the cost of a time limit. More than likely, I will just progress through the original and just move forward ahead with the rest of the Persona series, watching the others around me go through it instead. I don't want to be stuck on Persona 3 forever. Please let me play something else. Anyways, I think it's about time for my closing points. I, for one, really enjoy Persona 3 Reload at its core, and even though it doesn't match up to everything I felt in the original rendition, it doesn't make it any less or serve less of a purpose than its predecessor. Everyone can understand the impact and the messages that is left behind in the characters, narrative, and overarching themes. A definitive experience to me isn't something that contains the most content or has the most shining perspective. It's the one that leaves a resonating, lasting impact that will stay memorialized in your head for the rest of your life. And for me personally, there's nothing that could do that any better than the original Persona 3. If you enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. I encourage you to express your thoughts about anything I brought up and even your own personal experiences with the games. I think Persona 3's releases are special in a way that you can choose whichever one fits your bill, and you shouldn't be pressured to think otherwise. If P3R feels definitive for you, that's awesome. If the original still holds strong in your heart, that's great. If Portable's FEMC is peak fiction, I'll see it through myself one day. I just hope that this video was an enjoyable watch and hopefully allowed me to express my perspective about P3R once again. But anyways, that's gonna be all for me. You are now leaving Psyker's world. See you on your next visit.